313-789-04. Joined today by Keith Eister, Eyes. 2 hours, NBA DFS conversation, taking y'all straight up the lock. Crunch time will be jumping in around 6:25 or so. Kevin Roth, Andy Means. I'm not sure who the third person is, but I'm sure they're fantastic. I could vouch for that. Keith, happy Monday. 8-gamer. Some shenanigans, as far as some trades, the Dallas, Brooklyn stuff. Plenty of quote-unquote value up there. If you want to call Frank Ntilikina value. But, it's going to be kind of interesting to see what we're rolling out there as far as Brooklyn and Dallas today. Some interesting players. Well, we got Christian Wood coming back, potentially Ben Simmons coming back. We'll see. Trey Jones still out for San Antonio. Giannis does have that probable tag, but we've seen it before with Milwaukee. Sometimes those probable tags are goofy. De'Aaron Fox is back. Jaylen Brown got the midday downgrade, questionable, and they're facing the Pistons. Come on. I don't think he's playing. That's my guess. That's the very first game, though. But, thoughts as far as the slate. How are you? Do you want to give thoughts as far as the Kyrie? I mean, nobody. People want to know. They're clamoring. I think everybody gave out their take on Twitter. I don't think you did. You don't do this. You don't like to tweet for whatever reason.
We're actually the first show and people that are going to talk about the Kyrie trade today.
Nobody's done it yet. We're breaking news
Not
here.
one person has done it.
You'd think somebody else would say, hey, what we should talk about? This Kyrie guy got traded. It feels like it's somewhat significant. But, I mean, we'll certainly talk about it from a DFS perspective. But, obviously the parts aren't there just yet. They're still – I think it wasn't even official. I just saw it come across the old Twitter basically saying that, I guess it hasn't officially gone through, but we're assuming it's going to happen. I love the pettiness of the Brooklyn GM to not want to trade Kyrie to the Lakers. I just enjoy a good pettiness story. I asked you a lot of questions. What do you got for me?
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly an interesting angle for this slate. And the slate overall, I think it's a fun 8-game slate, not too unmanageable. We can get our head around these 8 games. But it introduces a very interesting dynamic because we don't know what rotations are going to look like in Brooklyn, really. We've seen it once, but Cam Thomas went absolutely ballistic in that fourth quarter. I don't know that we can trust that again. And then we don't know what Dallas is going to do, especially with Christian Wood coming back and Ntilikina questionable, like you said. The guard rotation there is super interesting. As far as the trade goes, just from an NBA perspective, if Dallas is done, I do not understand it. But I think they need to add a couple of pieces, and they really have something to work with. The name I've seen thrown out that I think makes the most sense for them would be OG Anunoby. They lost Finney Smith's defense. I think he slides right into that kind of role. He would be a perfect fit alongside Kyrie and Luka, in my opinion. And if they can get that done, then I think Dallas is a for real contender. But if they just sit tight with Luka and Kyrie, I think it's going to be tough for them to compete.
Yeah, that's kind of that's where I'm at as well. I think the loss of DFS is kind of sneaky. And we always talk about it from our perspective, like DFS, the irony of him being kind of terrible at DFS, he's just not a great, but he actually helps teams win. He's certainly usable, 3-and-D, really good defender, really good wing defender, versatile, can hit a 3 if you need it. And he's just tougher to replace. Now, Green might be sneaky good, and he's going to get more minutes, so we'll see how that's turning out. The young player they have there, I was going to say rookie. I'm not sure if he's a rookie or a second-year player. Might be a second-year player there.
Second, maybe even third, but he definitely not a rookie.
We haven't seen him a ton. But he's getting more run, obviously. But maybe they're kind of betting on him. But also, Kyrie might be a rental, right? He's not signed beyond this year. And you mentioned OG Anunoby. He's actually got a good contract for Toronto. He's got 2 or 3 more years left at $15 million per, considering it's a pretty good team-friendly deal. So Dallas would have to give something legit back, and I don't know what Toronto's urgency would be to move him. But, I do agree he would be super helpful. I saw Pirtle was another guy I saw floated out there. He almost definitely is going to get traded, I think. Mason Plumlee is another guy that's almost definitely going to get traded. Bones Highland is almost definitely going to get traded, right? We saw that. We talked about this one last week, by the way. If y'all were watching last week, I'm not sure if you're on the show or not, but how he unfollowed Denver and 9 dudes were out last night and they still didn't play him. It was a blowout. They still didn't play him. He's done. He's not playing another minute again, as far as I can tell, for Denver. No showcase games for I thought showcase games were a thing. Nope, he does not get one apparently.
He's got the age on his side, so I think people will take a shot on the potential. Being a young guy, he's certainly an attractive piece. I think they can package him to really add something for sure.
Other interesting thing is, speaking of showcase games, is like Christian Wood's coming back tonight with his thumb. Like he's going to have all the usage in the world, right? If he's playing alongside guys like Dwight Powell and Ntilikina, I assume he's going to start and assume he's well positioned. But he even came out and said he doesn't want to get traded, but he might get traded for Dallas. He might be the guy that helps him get OG Anunoby. Not sure. I don't know if that works, but he's just one of those guys that allegedly is on the block. And we're assuming he starts and plays. If he doesn't start, then it's very, very nerve-wracking. He's been out for a while, but it's not a conditioning thing. It's a thumb, so I assume he's good to go. These are things we'll address throughout the show. And yeah, Ntilikina had the fish, right? So he's questionable. We are projecting him to start if he does play. But, yeah, man.
Yeah, Wood is super interesting because we're projecting him for 34 minutes. If he gets that, he's in a fantastic spot against Utah. I think there is a little bit of risk that he plays less than that. But like you said, who else are they going to play in this spot with Luka out and then the trade, obviously, and their reinforcements not yet being available? Like there's nobody else for Dallas. So Wood should absolutely eat here. Does he play 34, 36 minutes? I hope so, because I think it's a fantastic spot for him. And the price is perfectly fair. Like for this role, he's just too cheap.
You're probably on the channel, the Slack channel, where our projection team discusses and like they have conversations as far as what they should project certain players. I am in that room too. I rarely do I speak, but I like the lurk. And yeah, they were having that conversation today, and like I could see Wood playing 38 minutes tonight. You know, and like why not? just let him go. But he also could play 28. I'm not sure. It's just I feel like he's a really, really interesting tournament play, and you know for sure Dallas is going to be a popular team. And I don't know if he's the first guy. He's not the first guy in as far as like projections or as far as, you know, optimals, but I assume he's hitting them to some degree. Just a really, really interesting play. Utah, we know about how their defense is funneled inside also. Yeah, that should be a good one. Also, on the other side of that game, we have Vanderbilt, who's got a questionable tag, and he's also heavily rumored to be traded as well. So would not be surprised if he sits and he gets moved at some point. What a weird spot for Utah, right? Because just overachieving all season long. And they're just in this tricky spot where I guess they theoretically, I mean, I guess they're not going to win anything, right? But they're not horrendous. So they're in that weird sort of like middle spot where I guess they might get incrementally better. I don't know. Do you have any hot takes as far as the upcoming trade? Of course, it's not until next Thursday, the trade deadline, which should be fun. But anything of note, anything on your mind that you're keeping an eyeball on as far as the trades?
No real hot takes, but I think the Kevin Durant situation is really interesting now. Is he happy with the return for Kyrie? We know he doesn't have a ton of time left as far as being an elite player in the NBA. So I think he's going to want to compete for as many championships as possible. I wouldn't be surprised if we end up seeing Durant moved.
Yeah, well, it was interesting that he allegedly demanded a trade in the offseason, and they couldn't find one that was suitable for everybody. Yeah, I don't know, man. I do think Brooklyn did really well considering the circumstances because they had no leverage at all. Kyrie, you know, this is his last year of his deal, and he basically said, trade me. And like right before that trade came out, there was a story that said he might sit out the rest of the season if he's not traded, which is like, whatever, man. That's just weird. Like what is he protesting? Like, you guys won't trade me, so I'm just going to sit the rest of the year? Like, I mean, whatever. I don't know how real that is.
Well, he wants that extension. I think he was using this as leverage to get an extension, but I don't know that he's getting that in Dallas either necessarily.
It's a weird thing because, like, I don't know. It's weird. Like, does he want to sign in Dallas, and does Dallas want to extend him? Because I think he's 30, 31. He's going to want the max, I assume. He's an interesting case study, I suppose. And I saw somebody throw it out. Yeah,
he's a player that certainly deserves it, but it's all the shenanigans and sitting out games and like there's a controversy around him every year. It seems like so that just it's tough.
Did you see LeBron tweet out like, "Is it me?" Is that he tweeted out? I think.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. Okay. What's going on in the chat? Oh, we're talking about beverages. Yeah, we had our pre-show conversation was about adult beverages. Do you dabble in the spirits? Is that for you or not so much or what?
I do. Yeah, I'm not real picky. If I had to choose my favorite, I'm whiskey based. But I will drink anything that has the adult content in it.
Like a natty ice?
I mean, if that's all that there is, I'm not opposed. I'm
I
not
am a
above
snob.
that.
I will draw a line. Yeah, like Budweiser. I can't. I mean, look, I'm just not that guy. I try not to be a snob about many things, but that noise you just heard. I'm sure you're wondering, what was that noise? You heard that noise, right? I'm guessing you heard that noise.
I'm not sure I did.
Oh, maybe you didn't hear it. I'm in a slow draft best ball for baseball, and we're in the 32nd round, and my player was just taken from my queue, Trevor Story. So I got to go back to the drawing board. Who knows how much he'll play this season? But it's a best ball. Yeah, it's exciting stuff. About what, 55 days until? Oh no, I got to turn this volume up. It's going off like crazy. You still hearing us, or is this? It's just
no,
me?
I cannot hear it.
That's so strange. All right, maybe nobody can hear it. Maybe the people can't hear it out there. Anything else we should talk about before kind of diving in as far as the slate, the game by game deal? Johnny Cueto was just taken, by the way, pitching for your Miami Marlins. Get excited.
My Miami
Did you
Marlins.
know?
All right, let's do our first. Would you rather? Since you have a rather large slate tonight, are you guys ready?
Go for it.
All right, let's do an easy one. In terms of two things to think about. Would you rather have wobbly shopping cart wheels for feet or spoons for hands?
Oh, man. Can I have like one of each?
I mean, that sounds awful too, but no. The question is feet or
For
hands?
comedic purposes, though.
The hands are more limiting, right? You can do most things on wheels, even if they're a little wobbly. Steps would certainly be a challenge. But I think without the opposable thumbs, like no spoons for hands would be really tough.
So you're going with the wobbly shopping cart.
As annoying as it would be, I think I'd have to go with the wheels for feet.
I think it depends how much you like soup or cereal. That's got to factor that in.
Not a soup guy.
Overrated, yeah. Is soup a meal? Seinfeld once asked many years ago.
I had a coworker one time order soup when it was 105 degrees out, and my mind was absolutely blown. I had no idea what was going on. I didn't know how to react to that situation.
What you're saying, the temperature determines how much you enjoy the soup?
You can't eat hot soup when it's 105 degrees out. Like it's a felony.
I mean, I don't know. I've never really thought about it that way, I suppose, but
like soup is like a warm-up meal. Like you're eating it to warm up. Like you don't need to warm up when it's 105 degrees.
There are some cold soups.
I mean, we're adults, Dean. Nobody eats cold soup.
Well, nobody eats soup. Soup's like a child.
That's true. That's fair.
I feel like adults don't eat a lot of soup. Maybe I'm wrong on that. Maybe it's a bad call. Is this chat pro soup or anti soup? Indifferent? Or what's your stance on soup, Keith?
I rarely eat soup, so I'm with you there. But I think it's more popular than you're giving it credit for right now.
Fair enough. I know ramen, like big ramen's making a killing of late. They're charging like $20 a cup for ramen. It's like, dude, that's ramen.
Yeah.
What are we doing here? There's a little piece of chicken in there, so.
Yeah, they scrape the cardboard off the side of the road, cook it up, and sell it for $35 and call it ramen and throw an egg on it.
It's outrageous. It's funny to hear my parents complaining about that, but really, come on, what are we doing here? I'm fine with ramen, like in a pinch, but I'm not spending $30 for ramen soup. Okay, did you have another one for us or no?
Yeah, we don't shoot all our shots at the beginning of the episode here. We're not Kyrie Irving.
Kyrie he's first quarter, second quarter, third quarter. You ask him to shoot, he's happy to shoot for sure. Tim Hortons chili. Chili's not soup, right? Chili's not soup. That's its own entity. Is chili a soup?
I mean, it's kind of like, is a hot dog a sandwich? Like, yes, it could be classified as it.
We gotta ask if chili is this debate been had by Twitter and has it been solved?
We don't need to have it. Chili is not a soup. What are we doing here? Again, we're adults, people.
I feel like it's not a soup, but like some people think it is. They're gonna say it is a soup. It's soup.
It definitely has soup. Yeah, it has soup-based qualities for sure.
They're cousins.
But, yeah. Maybe even brothers. Some might say.
Chili is a soup. Bisque is a soup. Chowder is a soup. People are very passionate about this chili not being a soup. This is the new is hot dog is a sandwich. We're going to start it, and we're going to get it going because, I don't know the definitive answer. Hey, let's talk about tonight's slate. Again, we're here for more than an hour, and we're handing it off to the Crunch Time team. By the way, if you guys are aware, if you're betting on, I guess I should say the big game. There's a game going down this weekend, Sunday. They're going to be playing some football, American football. RotoGrinders and Sports and Scores and Odds, SAO Super Bowl betting breakdown show. It's Wednesday night, February 8th, after the NBA locks. So after the NBA show, I believe it's going to segue right into the RG and SAO Super Bowl betting breakdown show. Are you going to be on that? Because I know you partake in that. You do that show with Cardi. I don't know if that's a whole other entity, but maybe you're going to be involved. I'm not. Nobody told me at least if I am.
I am not on the show as far as I know yet. But I am doing part of an article, at least, with Luch. I know Luch is putting something together as far as betting goes for that big game. So look out for the article as well. That's coming.
All right. I'm going to guess Grant's going to be on the show. I don't know if he is or he isn't, but Grant, it feels like Grant he would partake. He's got plenty of bets out there on Scores and Odds today.
On the screen, we have Head Chopper, Chief, Luch, and Nick are the four that are pictured. So I assume you can count on those four being on it.
Head Chopper? What? I feel like we haven't seen Head Chopper in a while.
I'm sorry about that graphic, by the way. I tried to run it by Devin. I was like, you should have just put my face on it 4 times if you really want to sell this thing, but they didn't do that.
Well, that's because you're a camera hog. Is that why you wanted to be on there?
Uh-oh.
Roth told me you're a camera hog. I word in the street. I was with my shoe shine.
You better be careful over there in Florida, Dean. I'm going to start mailing you buckets of soup.
Well, so I know for sure it's not going to be chili. All right. Very first game on the slate is the Cavs. The Cavs play the Wizards. 222 is the total. Wizards are 2-point dogs here as far as who is in and who's out in this. As far as slate, by the way, there is 2 7:00 games. Always worth noting when the times are coming out, especially when we have a lot of questionable stuff. 1 7:30. I think we have a fair bit at 8. 2 at 8. 1 at 9, and 2 at 10 o'clock. Okay. I should ask you beforehand, is there anything you're doing, assuming we don't get news, assuming we don't get information? We're not even sure if Ntilikina is going to play. We're not sure if he's available to play, if he is available to play, if he's going to draw the start. Maybe Jaden Hardy plays a fair bit. We're assuming Christian Wood draws the start, but we don't know. Is there anything you're doing specifically to set up for, Dallas 9 o'clock? We're not going to have that starting lineup at 7 o'clock. Just in general, anything else that's worth noting before we dive in?
No, not too much news we're waiting on. The Jaylen Brown thing you mentioned is obviously pretty big, but we're going to have that news before lock. The Dallas situation, who knows who starts, who knows what the rotation looks like, but there are multiple pieces at 3K that we can mix in there. We also have some Spurs guys who are really cheap and in good spots. They're a little bit more expensive than Dallas, but I think we're going to have plenty of options down in the 3K, 4K range that we can make anything work, depending on what we want to do with those Dallas pieces.
All right. Okay. First game, we did mention Washington. Worth noting here, Kyle Kuzma's not playing. Anthony Gill, I don't think is officially out. I believe he's questionable. But Bradley Beal's got that foot. He's questionable. So we know Kuzma's out. We know Beal is questionable. Kind of a big deal there. Questionable as far as the Cleveland side. No Karis LeVert, Ricky Rubio. Likely not to play. Well, definitely not to play. He's ruled out for injury management. Theoretically, like Washington should have some pieces, especially if Beal is out. Porzingis certainly gets a bigger boost, but he's like fully priced. The matchup against Cleveland is not pristine. Doesn't mean he can't get there, but it's not the greatest path. What are you doing here with the Wizards? You want to do a little if-then as far as the health of Beal in or out?
If Beal plays, he's probably the only one I'm interested in, and that's only passing interest at best. The matchup against Cleveland is one that I generally try to avoid. Beal at 7,300 is sort of interesting. He can certainly smash that if he shoots well and plays the minutes, but he's kind of been limited to around 30, 32 minutes all season long. So like the price tag coming down is justified, but he does have some upside at that price. Porzingis priced up in a tough matchup. I'm probably not interested there. I'd much rather spend my funds elsewhere. I think there's better value play than Kispert. Like Avdia and Gafford are priced fine, but appropriately, and just being tough matchup. First game of the night. Not too interested in the Washington side here at all.
I'm pulling up the if then, if Beal is out, right? So we have projections for premium. If he happens to be out, what changes? It's interesting because still, if Beal is out, nobody comes off as like a positive value. Porzingis is kind of sort of there, like averaging 45, 44 DK and Fanduel points, respectively. Avdia at 29, 28-ish, but he's kind of been bumped up due to some good play over the last week and a half, whatever it is. Just sort of surprising that nobody catapults like being, a good play when two of the big three are out. But that's just the case here for Washington.
Avdia is the guy I would have interest in if Beal was out. I just think there'd be a lot more shots available for him. He'd be pretty locked into over 30 minutes. I don't think there'd be any question. He kind of has been recently anyway, but I could see Avdia playing like 36 minutes if Beal was out. So he'd be the guy I'd have in.
What about Cleveland? How much does it matter if LeVert is in, if LeVert is out for you? Would you just like the guys or don't like the guys? Doesn't hurt, right? Wouldn't hurt Garland, wouldn't hurt Mitchell if LeVert happens to be out. Also Rubio as well. We'll see about Karis LeVert. That definitely will drop before lock. Surely at some point throughout this show. And just the Cavs in general, what do you think of Cleveland?
Yeah, more interested in Cleveland because they have a much better matchup. LeVert being out is noteworthy, but not the most important thing. What it would do is solidify minutes for Garland and Mitchell. Already have them both projected for 35. I think you could comfortably bump them up to 37, 38 minutes with upside for like 40, 41 minutes if LeVert was out. There's just not a ton of ball handlers on this team outside of Garland, Mitchell, and LeVert right now. So with LeVert out, I think you could see Garland and Mitchell play an absolute ton of minutes. I do like the matchup for the bigs as well. Apparently we're eating some soup on stream if we get to 100 likes. I don't even have any in the house to be able to eat. So
soup?
I'm going to have to order that.
What am I, a hoarder? Like one of those people that they called hoarders? Like, no, that's something else. The ones that, a doomsday prepper, that they would have soup for sure.
Yeah.
Who in the RG streets would you say is most likely to be a doomsday prepper if you had to guess on somebody?
Oh, man. I have no idea. I'd have to think on that one for a while.
I was thinking Stevie or Grant. I don't know why I just assumed Beard. It correlates, but that's the first thing that popped in my brain. Nick Offerman. Yeah, somebody said Nick Offerman. That's my similar thought process. Like, yeah.
It's Andy Means. Andy Means would be the doomsday prepper.
I don't agree with that. We'll ask him when he comes on later. Chop's a good answer. Michael in chat says Chop. That is a good answer.
Chop's actually the best answer, probably.
Chop's got like 17 cans of like chicken noodle Campbell soup right now in his basement or something like that. Oh man, Andy's an interesting take. I wouldn't have guessed Andy, but we'll see. Maybe we'll discuss these things later on in the show. It's important matters for sure. Is there any priorities here, Keith, as far as this game? And I know there's like an if then, right? But in the chat they're talking about, is it possible to fade the 2 7:00 games? We'll talk about Boston, Detroit in a second. I think that game's tougher to fade if Brown doesn't go. We'll discuss it.
Yeah.
But yeah, as a general thought, are you okay not playing the first two games, or you feel like you got to get pieces?
If Brown is out, I think you're going to want some Boston pieces. I am completely fine fading Cleveland, Washington. I don't think there's anything I have to have in this game.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. I like some of the guys, like you like some of the guys. I think Garland's a really good play today. I think he's helped a little bit incrementally if LeVert is out. Like Mobley, like Allen, well positioned, but do I have an urgency to play them? I don't think so. Let's move on and talk about Boston and Detroit. Just saw Beef Stew is available to play. I think that just came along. Just want to confirm that. Isaiah Stewart for Dallas, for Detroit, should be available. Corey Joseph
as well. Yep.
Good. The more bodies, the better for Detroit. I hate messing with this team. Okay. Yeah. As far as Boston, the big one, of course, is that we don't know about Jaylen Brown. He had the midday downgrade, which, midday downgrade and illness and facing Detroit and 11-point favorites. I have no idea. I'm not privy to the medicals, but I would guess he does not play. 11-point favorite, 229.5 is the total. Of course, we know Detroit, one of the worst defensive teams in basketball. Yeah, and if we have, I think we do have an if then. I'm pretty sure we do for Jaylen Brown. But yeah, your thoughts. Let's knock out Detroit first. Do you like any Pistons this evening?
I'm with you that they're just a tough team to play. They play a ton of guys, so nobody plays like 36 minutes. Tough matchup against Boston. I don't think I have to play anybody on the other side of my Boston. Like, I'm not interested in stacking the game necessarily. It'd just be the value pieces that are jumping into bigger roles. Boston, if Jaylen Brown is out, I think Jalen Duren is fine at 5,100. He's been playing the minutes, but he's got Rob Williams on the other side. Don't love that matchup. I think Bogdanovich is fine. He's priced appropriately. Tough matchup against Boston. Not anything I'm prioritizing. And then the rest of the guys, it's just really hard to trust. If Bay were to jump into the starting lineup again, potentially, but they've been starting Stewart and Duren together. So as long as Stewart is available to play, which we just got that confirmation, I assume that he's still in that starting lineup. Just not a lot to like here on Detroit.
Hitting the refresh here as far as ownership. Last ownership I have is 330. Okay, so we should be getting a new one soon. It's as of 330, but yeah, Detroit, nobody is getting more than 10% on DK Jalen Duren. The one positive, I guess you can say, as far as the matchup is, like, even if Detroit, and it's very possible.
And there's the Jaylen Brown news. Jaylen Brown is
out.
Yep.
Come on, put it on the board. We called that one. But I kind of wish he was playing, because now, all right, yeah. The thing is, even if Detroit is getting fully mollywopped by Boston, you might see Jalen Duren mopping up because they just let their guys do their thing sometimes. So, like, we've seen it before several times this year with Detroit. Like, they're fine losing, and if they're down 30 or 20, like, whatever. Like, let's just get some running for Jalen Duren. So, like, I think he's kind of sort of, I don't want to say he's blowout proof, but there is, like, an angle where it's almost not a bad thing if they're getting blown out, because then he's playing against, Luke Cornett or whoever, second and third stringers for Boston. Tony Snell is in the Boston organization now, by the way. Get excited. He's in the G League. So, yeah, I don't know if he's getting called up anytime soon, but, yeah, keep the dream alive that we can get more of those Tony Snell 0-0-0-0-0 game lines. Okay, we did have an if-then, and we're going to be, sure, putting it on Lineup HQ momentarily. Jason becomes best big spends on this slate now. We're projecting almost 57 DK points, 53 Fanduel. Of course, you got to pay for it. Good matchup for Robert Williams, giving him 30 minutes on the inside. We know how vulnerable Detroit is inside. They're also without Smart, too, which is worth noting. We may get, and I saw them talking about this one, like Peyton Pritchard starting, which, man, that one can go really poorly. If you catch him on the wrong night, and he probably doesn't close if this game is close. I assume it'll be like probably, let's see, who would be closing for them? Jeez, am I missing? Wait, is Brogdon not playing? Is he? Did I miss that? No, Brogdon's playing, right?
He's in.
Why is
Yep.
Oh, okay. I'm staring right at it. I'm like, why don't I see Brogdon? Nope, just look up one more person. Okay, yeah, so talk about Boston. I feel like this is a game we probably can't fully ignore if you're making a bunch of lineups, because the matchup is juicy and you're without two starters. So condensed usage, awesome matchup. Boston, who do we prioritize?
Yeah, I mean, Tatum is certainly interesting. I don't think that he is my top priority, and that's just because there's still blowout risk. Like, Brown out certainly lowers the blowout risk, but he's fully priced. You have Giannis in a really good spot at the end of the night. I will certainly have Tatum. I'll have plenty of Tatum, but we'll see where this ownership projection lands. If he's going to project at like 30% owned, I'm not sure I have interest in trying to get over the field on that. The value pieces are more interesting. Robert Williams, you mentioned at 5.5, awesome matchup against Detroit. Minutes have been trending upwards, so certainly like Robert Williams. Derek White at 5,600, very interested there as well. Should handle the ball a ton, get an uptick in usage. So Derek White at 5,600 is probably the one I'm most interested in. Toss up between him and Williams, I would say. I'm not messing. I do love Brogdon as well at 6,100. This definitely should raise the minutes for him. We have him projected at 25 right now, guessing that comes up into the 30 range. Peyton Pritchard is not someone I'm messing with. I think the value in Brooklyn and in Dallas is far better. Yes, you can certainly get burned by some of those guys as well. I just think that their upside is far greater than what Pritchard can give me.
And you feel better about Brogdon and White. I know different prices, obviously, than like Ntilikina or whatever we're going to see as far as Brooklyn. Like, where do you feel about that? Or you haven't really quite digested that thought?
Well, the Dallas pieces are cheaper, so I don't think it's a either or conversation. I think they can both mix in. I guess we can compare them to guys like Tim Hardaway Jr. Josh Green is a little bit priced up, but I'm more interested in who's playing the point guard for Dallas, whether it is Ntilikina or if it's somebody like McKinley Wright or who's the other guy, Jaden Hardy. Like there's three legitimate options at 3,500 or less that could be in play for us for Dallas, depending on that starting lineup. Like if they start Wright and Hardy and Ntilikina gets ruled out, then I'm perfectly comfortable going there for Dallas.
So I'm building as Wright is. I don't know who McKinley Wright is.
He's gotten a little bit of. I think he played in the last game. Yeah, 13 minutes in the last game. He's a smaller guard. He has the ability to run the point, certainly.
Okay, he did play 20 minutes back in last year, like this season, but last in 2022. I don't remember that. Must have been a blowout or something goofy. Yeah,
Hardy's the big use guy in the G League, right? I believe that he has a massive, and even the limited with Dallas, he has a massive usage rate. So 3,400, I think, is safe in any scenario.
Yeah, that's the one that can really
definitely prefer Hardy over Pritchard.
Okay, yeah, so do I. That makes sense. Anything else to talk about here as far as Boston, Detroit, or shall we move on?
Grant Williams, Al Horford are both cheap as well. They're certainly in play now without Jaylen Brown. They're going to be playing minutes, and it's a great matchup. We didn't touch on them, just want to throw their names out there. They're very much in play too.
You think they crack like you're making 20 lineups? They're in the pool. Like you force them in the pool. If they happen to hit 10% to the lineups, that's fine. Is that basically where we're at in those guys?
Yeah, I mean, I think I want some exposure. Like Grant Williams, we've seen just randomly get hot and hit a bunch of threes. He's 3,400, so he doesn't even need to do that much. I probably make sure I have at least one lineup that includes him. Horford, I'm pretty indifferent on. I don't think he has as much ceiling, but 4,800, he could grab 10 rebounds and put up a double-double for sure. So he's interesting. I wouldn't kick him out.
In a vacuum, Jason Tatum's, or he's 1K left, less than Giannis Antetokounmpo. You like Tatum or you like Giannis? Like as far as
I'm on the Giannis side on this one. Just like I just don't feel like he's going to be pushing as hard as Giannis. I think Portland has a better chance to keep the game closer. I don't know. Maybe that's wrong. I'll evaluate that a little bit more leading up to lock.
Milwaukee looks like they're currently a 5-point favorite. Detroit, 10-point dogs, 11-point dogs here against Boston. So that line of thinking, I think, is correct. Okay, Clippers and the Nets, 220.5 is the total. Of course, this Brooklyn team is going to look different and look bad for one night at least. Nodes are rent. They traded away Kyrie. The pieces they got back are not going to be playing. No DFS. No Dinwiddie, not available. Simmons is officially questionable. Seth Curry is out. Our projected starting lineup is Edmund Sumner, Joe Harris, Royce O'Neal, Ben Simmons, and Nick Claxton. Remember that triple-double that Royce O'Neal had earlier in the year? Oh, I thought I was so sharp for not playing it with that slate, and he just destroyed my – it was like a 3-gamer. He was like the best play in the slate. Because like 3 guys are out, and his role typically doesn't change, right? But, yeah, I'm still bitter about that one 2 months ago, whatever it was.
Herb Jones are on your list, huh?
Yeah, Evan Herb Jones. Brooklyn. And then Cam Thomas, of course, this weekend, put 40, 45 points in the bucket, just completely outrageous. We still don't know if he's starting. I think we have projected for mid-20s as far as minutes. He's happy to shoot and a lot of guys that can do that necessarily. Do you have a lean as far as Simmons? Is Simmons going to play here? Theoretically, they could use him. I mean, there's been kind of like wink, wink, like the injury might not even be real. I don't know. Who knows? But do you think Simmons goes, and how much does that change things for Brooklyn?
I don't have a read on whether he plays or not. It's definitely there's a weird situation with the trade just happening, Durant still being out. It feels like they're just kind of resting him because they're punted these couple games to get everyone well rested to try to make a run is sort of what it feels like. So I would lean out if I had to make a guess, but real conviction. I think you can target him if he plays. I'd be concerned about the minutes, concerned about the blowout a little bit. But he's interesting if he plays. I still have interest in Sumner. And the starting lineup matters here a little bit, as you kind of alluded to. As long as Sumner is in there, I think he's a fantastic play. I think you can back to Cameron Thomas again. Just don't expect that. Like, he put 19 points in the fourth quarter, I think it was. Like, he just went absolutely nuts. And the price is up to $5K now. But he's historically been a high usage guy. So he should have plenty of shots available. And like you said, 28-ish minutes, upper 20s minutes, we should see him playing this one, even if he doesn't start. So definitely interested in Thomas as well. Yeah, I mean, I don't think I'm messing around with Royce O'Neal, Joe Harris. Claxton's price is up. I don't hate Claxton. I think Claxton is the one that gets a decent boost if Simmons sits. Just a little bit more rebounding equity for him, a little bit more ceiling, I think, available. If Simmons sits, Claxton is interesting, but probably not real. Probably won't have a ton of exposure if Simmons is in.
We got a ownership update, by the way. LeVert is in. Anthony Gill is in. Tatum at 10%. Robert Williams at 12%. Like, if Tatum is 10%, if that's close, that's basically the number. I think that's a really strong play at 10%.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. He can be the big winner on this slate at 10%. If that's accurate, of course, this stuff, the closer we get to lock, the more it gets refined. But I feel pretty good about 10% Tatum. The Brooklyn pieces, by the way.
On DraftKings, I'm seeing 20%.
Do I have to hit refresh again?
Maybe it didn't quite pick it up when you hit refresh the first time.
Well,
20%. See, like
completely changes now at 20%.
Yeah, like 10%. There's no way that picked up the Boston changes.
You'd have to be a donkey to play him at 20%. Brogdon 23%, Tatum 20. Thank you for pointing that out, because I thought I hit refresh and I guess it didn't take the first time. Horford at 17. He's down to 4.8. Horford. He does a whole lot of nothing most of the times, but matchups theoretically fine. Okay, as far as I just wanted to walk back and just see what we had, because the ownership did just kick in. Biggest number on Brooklyn is 17% for Edmund Sumner. Simmons just getting 1% right now, assuming he's in. The price has not gone down. He's down to 6.7, but theoretically he's a guy that can hit 8, 9, and 8 and a couple stocks. Cam Thomas at 1% is wild. I don't know if that's going to hold. They still have a lot of just random dudes. If you want to bet on Daron Sharp kind of getting some run, we know he's awesome as far as point per minute, but isn't he mostly directly? Yeah, so we're giving Claxton 33 and Sharp 15. So does he only play back five, or can he play alongside Claxton? Can he do both?
I think if Simmons were out, you could see them play alongside each other. Let me pull up that. I actually thought I had the last game pulled up. I closed it because Simmons was out over the weekend. So yeah. I'm interested to see. I'm pulling it up right now to see if they played together at all on Saturday or Sunday, whatever game is. It looks like they did share the court. Almost none. A little bit in the first quarter.
Season, 9 minutes. I just cut you off, but I just ran it. They played together 9 minutes. So, okay.
That's less interesting. I was kind of thinking that Sharp might be even more interesting without Simmons, but it doesn't really seem like that matters. They're only going to play Claxton or Sharp at the 5 and the 5 only.
Yeah. But the Clippers on the other side, don't look now or look, because that's what we're doing. They've shortened their rotation. Have you noticed this? They played 8 guys last game, including overtime. 8 dudes. The Clippers, for real. And the game previously, I think they played 8 guys as well too. Is that a pattern going forward? Are they just saying screw it, let's just not, we're just kind of rope-a-dope in this season, I suppose. But eventually we got to turn it on and try to win some games and just play our best guys. We are projecting 10, but we're only projecting 6 for Kennard and 6 for Covington, and I think those guys were DMP CDs, just for what it's worth. So Yeah, your thoughts as far as the most recent Clipper rotations? Are we down to 8 guys? Is that what we're going to be doing? Unless,
I think Ty Lue has kind of hinted at something like this coming over the past week or so. Like he's talked about in the past, like finding the right mix. So I think it's something he's been wanting to go to. And now he's actually doing it. So I think it's something that we'll see going forward. The really scary thing about this now, though, is if they're committed to an eight-man rotation and suddenly he decides that Luke Kennard is going to enter the rotation over Terrence Mann, like now seeing a guy we have projected for 26 minutes, like just catch a DNP-CD, which is never fun. So it makes it really risky to roster the bottom of the rotation guys. But I think guys like Paul George, Kawhi Leonard are super interesting. Kawhi has been playing just out of his mind recently.
Yeah.
He is fully back. 9-7, like he's been paying that off with regularity. It's like if you think about what he's done, like earlier in the season, we would have never played that. Obviously, there was a minutes restriction and he's working his way back from the injury. But you just look recently, and there's a lot of 50s and 60s in that game log. This is certainly not a matchup we're scared of. This depleted Brooklyn team on the other side. So it's PG and Kawhi for me. I like the ownership. Like I can get 10% of those guys and be well over the field. I'm perfectly happy to do that. I think either of them could smash here.
Kawhi on the season averaging 32.1 minutes, which like many people thought at the start of the year, like you'd be shocked if you seen him play. That's like the max he would get, right? Talk about how fragile he was. Last 4 games, 41, 40, 40, 39. At least one of those is an overtime game, but like just pretty wild that is going down. And by the way, that last game, 41 minutes, was a third game in 4 nights too. He is fully back for sure. So yeah, you got to pay for him, but for sure he's somebody's in your pool if nothing else as far as a big spend. A question from Rad Dad Fanny Pack in chat. What's up, Rad Dad? Welcome. Brand new to DFS, and it's a tricky question to answer. Throw it to you, and everything is sort of context and nuance. There's really no catch-all answer, but I'm curious your thoughts. The ideal percentage to play and pay up for a player. Feel free to answer that however you like. And again, it's a tricky way to answer that because everything is sort of like slate-based, and there's a lot of nuance, and it's lineups. It's not players, right?
Yes. So a very tricky question to answer. There is no right or wrong answer, in my opinion. And I'm not sure even what he means by the percentage, like if he's talking about building a portfolio of lineups and what percentage of the salary cap do you spend on a player? I'm not exactly sure what the basis of the question is. So I don't really know how to answer it.
Yeah.
But it's definitely always going to be slate dependent.
Yeah. And I hope I wasn't giving the impression like you can't play a player that's 20% owned. And like, you absolutely can play. You could play a player
especially in NBA.
Owned.
Yes, especially in NBA.
Like when Naz Reid is 60% owned and Gobert's not being played, I'm just playing him 100%, and that's that.
Yes.
Basically, usually, unless his price is like 6K or something like that. There's some situations in the predictability of NBA that are just too good, and you just get different elsewhere. By the way, an update: I dropped a Twitter poll as far as if chili is a soup or not. What was your official answer? Because we have 100 people so far sampled, so we have a sample size. Did you say chili is a soup or not a soup?
I'm going to say it is a soup.
You're in the minority. 33% say yes, and the rest, 3% say show me the results. Which, by the way, take a stand. What do you just hit yes or no? Like you can't take a stand on this. You just want to click show me the results, which is fine. I throw the option out there.
I'm totally that guy.
If you don't really have an opinion, I suppose it depends on the thickness is a good answer too, and that might matter.
Yeah,
soup is soupy, and
I'm going to further complicate this. Is stew a soup? If chili is not a soup, then stew can't be a soup, right?
I don't know. Is that why somebody made a joke when I was talking about beef stew and we're talking about chili? Beef stew, of course, being Isaiah Stewart. But I don't know. I feel like the answer is like whatever the answer is for one, it's got to be the answer for the other one.
Correct. Yeah, I do agree with that.
But I don't know.
Like somebody threw out chowder and bisque too. Like how deep are we going here as far as what is a soup?
Producer Devin says stew is a soup, but soup isn't a stew. Correct. I think that's correct. All right.
I'm so confused.
You learn a lot of different things on this show. Or maybe we're learning nothing. We've really solved nothing as far as Ben Simmons is out.
Yes, he
So
is. I was just going to say that.
Yeah. Okay. So how does that change things?
I don't think it does a ton. He's just there's not a lot of usage that he's giving up. So nobody's getting a huge usage bump. He's been out for a couple games. I don't think it changes my feelings hardly at all. I'm still interested in Sumner and Thomas. What's that?
That just seems wild that it doesn't matter. And I'm not saying you're wrong. I just think it's interesting that you don't think it matters significantly.
The one guy I think it helps is Claxton.
He's already, his price is already kind of baked up there. And I don't know the on-off stuff, but in my head, I feel like Claxton benefits from, a Kyrie or a Durant, somebody doing a PNR, setting him up for easy, easy looks at the basket, easy dunks. And I feel like he's going to be hurt by if it's Sumner trying to do that, right? The quality of those looks are going to go down, right? I think. Is that fair to say?
That's definitely true, but he does get a rebounding rate boost without Simmons on the floor. I do recall that. The guys that are going to get the biggest boosts are probably Joe Harris, who we have projected for 23 minutes. He probably goes up to 30 minutes. I don't know.
By the way, our projected starting lineup, we now just put Cam Thomas in the starting lineup. So that's a big deal. If he jumps in the starting lineup, I think he becomes a really strong play. No?
Yeah, I mean, we had him projected for 29 minutes. Is he going to play 36 minutes? I'm not sure about that.
They have other guys. The thing is, he's the biggest usage guy on this team by a good bit. The one is standing right now. The one is playing tonight. 25% usage, Sumner at 21%, Warren at 20%, Mills. How deep are they going to go into their bench is the other question, because we're giving 18 minutes to Patty Mills. This is before the Ben Simmons thing. What if he gets 24? And those 24 minutes might be kind of useless because you're getting maybe 18 fantasy points at 3-6. Okay, he's eating up minutes and he's kind of worthless. Now, I guess theoretically he could start and put up 30 fantasy points. I suppose that's possible too. I don't know, man. There's a lot of different ways to go with this Brooklyn team, and not a lot of it's comfortable. But I think you're also going to be probably wanting at least one piece, maybe, or maybe not.
Yeah, so I think the reason I'm saying not much else is popping is I was already interested in Cam Thomas, and it's simply because of that usage rate. If he gets 5 minutes or 20 minutes, he could score 30 actual points in that amount of time. Sumner, I think, could handle the ball a ton. And he's a great play at 4,500. I already had a ton of interest in those guys. Patty Mills at 3,600 is very similar to the Peyton Pritchard play that we just talked about. I'm playing Hardy from Dallas 8 out of 9 times over Patty Mills for sure.
Is Kessler Edwards going to have to play a decent amount? I don't think so. As of right now, I don't think we have him projected for any minutes. He probably gets some run with Simmons being rolled out, but I wouldn't think it's anything significant. Have you considered Kessler Edwards today?
I have not. He did
they
not
still
play
have
over
guys.
the weekend. Yes.
Well, they have 11 because they called up Duke from the G League. I'm not. Was Edwards on the G League? I don't know if he was.
That's what I was just trying to look. Is Edwards even available?
He's on our main lineups page as being listed as being.
Then that does mean they called him up.
But they still have Watanabe, Sharp, who I guess Sharp's just going to play mostly backup 5, basically exclusively backup 5. TJ Warren, you'll probably get 25 minutes or so. Mills, Drew Smith, Duke, Edwards. Those guys I don't think will play enough, but they might eat a few minutes off other guys. Yeah, it's peculiar. It's a tricky situation, but a final thought before we move on as far as Brooklyn?
Just really the guards for me, Sumner and Thomas, I think are the two most interesting plays here. Be interesting to see where their ownership comes out. Claxton, not sure that I'm getting their Simmons out. I'm just not that interested in some of the other secondary pieces. Maybe Joe Harris at 4,200, but definitely prefer the Dallas value to the Brooklyn value.
All right. This is a tricky one. Kings, Rockets, 238 is the total. The Rockets are 7-point dogs here at home. Back half of a back-to-back for Sacramento. They got mollywopped yesterday. Not a good showing for the Kings. Back at it versus the Rockets. And you feel like this is a really good environment. The Kings are fully healthy. Fox expected back tonight. Houston getting healthier. Gordon's available. Tate is available. Garrison Matthews is questionable. Porter is out, but Jalen Green, of course, is back now. And, Alperen Şengün is now priced up to 8.6. I love Şengün, but, at some point, that's not like an optimal price. Of course, for tournaments, sure. This game environment, though, is fabulous, right? Good pace, Houston's defense. But I don't love anything here when you consider the salaries. Like, I like Sabonis for tournaments. I feel like you're probably going to feel differently about this game than me. But, like, theoretically, it's awesome. But when you consider the prices, it's not awesome? You tell me.
Yeah, I do have a lot of interest in this game. You know my style well. I generally target game environments, and this is one to love, like you said. Fast pace, no defense on either side. I'm actually glad that Fox returned today because I think Sabonis was going to pick up some ownership. And even the secondary Kings pieces were going to be pretty popular. Now this game is like completely unowned, and it's my favorite game on the slate. There are certainly values I prefer more, but paying up to a guy like Sabonis, I think is a great idea. He smashed this team earlier and has struggled against centers all year long. He had 70 fantasy points against them earlier this season. He doesn't shoot as much with Fox, but he gets better looks with Fox. The pick and roll stuff that you just talked about with Claxton, I think is very similar with Fox and Sabonis. Fox just gets Sabonis better looks. We've seen Sabonis kind of crash the last 2 games without Fox. Like, he hasn't performed up to expectation. With Fox coming back, I feel like Sabonis is a fantastic target in this game. And then the other one I'm interested in, who's getting no ownership at all, is Malik Monk. It's not as comfortable with Fox back. The minutes certainly are not as secure, but 5,500 against Houston is appealing to me. And Fox, nobody's playing Fox either, I don't think. I think you want to take some shots. Anybody. Houston. Yeah, right. Like the entire game is unowned. So I'm definitely going to have at least bonus Fox and Monk from the Kings in my pool. I might expand that to include Harrison Barnes as well. The one guy I don't feel comfortable about is Kevin Huerter. Like, they've just done some crazy things with his minutes recently. 3 of the last 4 games, he's played 20 minutes or less, or 21 minutes in one of those.
Monk's
games.
Been taking him.
Yeah. So I prefer Monk. I don't know if somebody has a strong stance that Huerter is the guy, or they saw something that they believe Huerter, I'd be fine with that. I like what he does when he's out there, but he hasn't been out there enough. And Monk is a little bit higher usage as well. So I prefer Monk, but I love Sabonis. I love Fox.
Yeah. And like the most appealing thing about this game, besides the environment being good, is the ownership stuff, the projected ownership. Like, typically this game would jump off the page, and it's just not. And I think it's because, like, Şengün is priced up, and he was thriving in the absence of Green and KPJ. KPJ's still out, but Green is back. So slight hit on him, right? Fox being back, slight hit on Sabonis. Sabonis' price also crept up. They're asking in chat why you only played 27 minutes. Yeah, they got beat pretty good yesterday. That's all it was. They got crushed yesterday. Did not play yesterday's slate, by the way. I was looking at some of the box scores. Some weird stuff. McCollum, they didn't play a lot. It was a blowout, and he didn't play in the second quarter. I guess the second unit was just driving for New Orleans. I don't know if you played much yesterday, if you were paying attention. But, yeah, some odd stuff. And there's like a bunch of blowouts. Like a really gross slate. I feel like one I would have lost money on, just kind of looking at the box. Sometimes it's like, man, I feel like if I would have played tonight, I would have done well. I'm pretty good. I would have lost money yesterday. So I'm happy I abstained. Yeah, it's just a weird game. And Sacramento fully healthy, and you never really know who's going to close for Sacramento. Well, a couple pieces you do, but like you said, the Huerter Monk thing, I would probably set a rule. I wouldn't play both those guys in the same team.
Love that.
You would do that as well?
Yep. Yeah.
Your favorite play in this game, all things considered? Yeah, as of right now on DK, Jalen Green is the one getting the most ownership at 7%, Fox at 6%, Sabonis at 3%, Şengün at 2%. He's 8'6". I love Şengün, but 8'6", and I think he had 4 fouls in the first half yesterday, which I respect to the coach for keeping him out there. I always like that. I hate when they give him the hook, like in the middle of the second, like, oh, that's it. You got to go to the bench and can't come back until the start of the third and whatever, man. Let him play, especially with the Rockets. Who cares? Come on. Let's just let the guy do this thing. But, final thoughts as far as Sacramento and Houston?
Yeah, Sabonis is one of my favorite plays on the slate. That's an extremely attractive ownership number. I don't think Fox coming back hurts him as much as the field probably has adjusted to that and are thinking, oh, Sabonis is too expensive. We've seen Sabonis go for 60 plenty of times alongside of Fox. So I think he can pay off that $10K price tag. I prefer him over Tatum if I had to choose. A little bit of that is ownership, but I just straight up, I think he scores at least as much as Tatum does tonight. The Houston side is I'm not as interested in because of Jalen Green coming back, like you mentioned. Şengün is priced up, but I will play some Green on the other side of Sabonis. I think you can look at some of the big guys too, like Tari East and Jabari Smith. I don't hate them. It's tough. Like the pricing on Houston isn't as attractive as what I'm looking at in Sacramento, but I strongly prefer the Sacramento side, but I do want to mix that in with a few run backs. Jalen Green would be my favorite if I had to choose, but KJ Martin, Eric Gordon, Jabari Smith, I'd say are in play too.
I mean, Tari Easton's a guy we were paying like 3.8 for, and hopefully he gets in the positive side of variance in his 20 minutes. And he had that game where he had 19 rebounds because he couldn't make a layup, and now he's up to 5'4", and everybody's back.
Yeah.
And
with Jabari back, it's tough to get there for sure.
Yeah,
the minutes just aren't going to be there. Here's
a team that's missing a bunch of dudes. Most of them not very good, but the Spurs don't have a very good team. They're in Chicago tonight. 239 is the total. Of course, the Spurs, worst defensive team in the league. You don't see it very often. Chicago, poor season. They're 10-point favorites tonight versus the Spurs because the Spurs are without Trey Jones, Jeremy Sohan. Langford is still out. Devin Vassell is still out. They did call up they have their G League guys that are available, Wesley and Barlow. So they do have 11 bodies for what it's worth. And as far as the Bulls are pretty healthy. Caruso's questionable with that foot. Patrick Williams expected to go with his ankle. Great spot for all the Chicago side. Levine, DeRozan. I think these guys are better plays on Fanduel, like dollar for dollar. Vooch is well positioned here as well, but you got to pay for him. I guess the Spurs cheapies are the most appealing parts. Well, you tell me, what side of this game you want to start talking about first?
Let's go San Antonio first. And I do have some interest here because Bulls, I think, are easy. You're just paying up for one of the stars. On San Antonio, with Trey Jones out, I think the role for Josh Richardson and even Malachi Branham has improved. The price has come up on both of them, but both are still in play for me. We've seen Branham play over 30 minutes, 2 games in a row, put up over 30 fantasy points in both of them. So 4,500. Totally fair for his role. He's been running quite a bit of points. I'm not scared of the matchup against Chicago as well. So I think Branham is a fine run back. I would prefer Richardson slightly. I think he does just a little bit more. And then Stanley Johnson as another 3K option. I don't hate that. We're showing 20% ownership on Stanley Johnson right now. I'm not.
Yeah.
I think that's a little heavy. I don't think he comes in quite that owned. And if he's more like 14-15%, I'm interested in Stanley Johnson.
We got him coming off the bench. Looks like playing 24 minutes. Would you be more interested if he starts? I should note. Did I not say this? I should have mentioned that the big body of Keldon Johnson. He's questionable too. If he doesn't go, like that's a big deal because he's their biggest usage guy standing. And theoretically, like if this game were to stay close and Keldon, he's probably having a good game, or the Bulls are missing a lot of shots, and it's a low-scoring game. I think Johnson's interesting for tournaments if he goes, and if he doesn't go, do we have a what if? Because if he doesn't go, let's see. I'm trying to see if we did do one for Johnson. I guess we don't. But like, what does your brain say if Keldon is out? Price up as far as Branham, but 4.5 should still be plenty of meat in that bone for sure. He's been playing better of late. His best basketball of the season. The steamer, Stanley Johnson, feels gross because we've all played him for the last 9 years, dating back to Toronto or whatever. But he's been pretty good this year. Point per minute is almost a fancy point per minute. Not a ton of run, but 0.94 on DK, 0.92 on FanDuel. but there is some fragility there as far as the cheapies, right? J Rich, 0.95 on DK, perfectly fine. He's priced up more than he's been of late, but the minutes should be there, at least for him. What is your what if Keldon is out?
Yeah, if Keldon is out, I think the answer is Stanley Johnson, because Doug McDermott is not a guy they're going to give extended run. They always like to keep him in like that low 20s minutes range. I think Stanley Johnson would be the big beneficiary there. He's presumably the one that would start. I suppose they could go to somebody like Blake Wesley, even Isaiah Roby. I don't know. We already have him projected to start.
Oh, he's already starting. Yeah. Okay, yep. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. So I think it's Stanley Johnson. And he's already projected for 24 minutes. If he's projecting for like 30 minutes, he would really pop it at 3-3.
Yeah. When has 30 minutes of Stanley Johnson projection ever steered you wrong? Oh, wait. Many times. But yeah, it makes sense. 8:00 game. Who knows when we'll get that news? You mentioned the Bulls are kind of sort of somewhat easy. Vuk, Levine, DeRozan. Would you have rules? Not playing more than two of those, more than one of those? Can you power rank your thoughts as far as your favorite amongst DeRozan, Levine, and Vukovic?
I would be okay playing two of the three, but if I'm playing two of the three, I would definitely want Spurs on the other side. If I was ranking just the price on Levine, I think is attractive, 8,100. Been playing a little bit better here recently. I think just saving the money going down to Levine would be where I look first. Like the price on Vooch is what I'm struggling with. I love the matchup for Vooch. I just don't want to pay 9,100. You mentioned FanDuel. He's cheap on FanDuel at 8,300. Love Vooch would be number one on FanDuel for sure. But I think it's Levine, DeRozan, Vooch on DraftKings.
I'm giving a refresh as far as our FanDuel ownership. I did kind of reference that the Bulls are a little bit more appealing over there collectively, and the ownership reflects it. 34% for DeRozan at 8.4, 30% for Levine at 7.6, and 23% for Vuk at 8.3, which is a really appealing price. Center only get one over there, but he looks like a pretty good center option for sure. Anything else, or are we moving on? Dallas, Utah.
Let's keep moving.
Yes. All right. 3 more to go. Crunch time crew, 15, 20 minutes or so. Andy Means, the alleged hoarder, the alleged what do we call him?
Doomsday
prepper, according to producer Rob.
Survivalist is the key word.
That's a nice way of saying it. It's a nicer way of saying survivalist. That's right. Yeah. But nobody's watching the show called Survivalist, but Doomsday Prepper. I'm DVRing that. I'm going to watch that. Let's see what's going on there. Okay, Dallas and Utah, 222.5 is the total. Dallas, we're going to get a weird rotation here, a weird lineup. Of course, no Kyrie there just yet. No Luka. Frank Ntilikina, our projected starting point guard, is currently ill. He's questionable. Davis Bertans will be out for a while. Maxi Kleber will be out for a while. We are getting Christian Wood back, who's currently on the trade block, dealing with a thumb. So I assume we'll talk about it, that like the minutes will basically be there. It wasn't a cardio thing, wasn't a leg thing. It's a thumb thing. Hopefully he can shoot with that thumb here against Utah. Yeah, we got to do our best here as far as Dallas, but theoretically there's going to be some good plays. Also, depending on where you're shopping, Tim Hardaway is a much better play on FanDuel than he is on DK. 6'4" on DK, certainly playable. FanDuel 5'2" feels like one of the first players you're putting in your cash lineup. Talk about the Mavs.
Yeah, tons of interest here. Awesome matchup against Utah. Christian Wood is somebody I'm very interested in here. Assuming that he is full go and going to play these minutes, he should absolutely smash in this spot. Obviously, no Luka. Kyrie not available yet. He should have close to 30% in this spot. 8,400, too cheap for this matchup against Utah. Absolutely love Christian Wood. I think he can smash the price tag even at 28 minutes. If he gets up into the mid to upper 30s, he's just going to crush tonight. The guards are where I'm looking next. whether Ntilikina plays or not, Jaden Hardy is the next guy. That usage rate is super appealing. I just talked about how many shots they're missing. Hardy could be, if Wood leads the team, Hardy could be number 2. Hardy could even surpass Wood. Like, that's how much he has shot in the limited playing time he's received. So Hardy, definitely my second favorite here. Ntilikina, Ntilikina is comparable to the Pritchard, and who was the other 3K? Branham that we talked about. Like, I think he's right in that same range. Just not a high usage guy. If he's going to play 30 minutes at 3K, obviously we're interested, but I strongly prefer Hardy to him. I would even say I might have as much McKinley Wright as I will Frank Ntilikina. I don't trust the minutes for Ntilikina. Like, he's not a guy we've seen play 30 minutes very often. I'm looking now. Yeah. 22 minutes, 26 minutes is his season high. So I just don't trust him to play. McKinley Wright, if he gets up into the 22-minute range, basically if Ntilikina and Wright split minutes, a much better number on McKinley Wright. So I will have plenty of him as well.
And if Ntilikina is ruled out, I assume Wright will get some of those minutes in addition to whatever his projection is right now. Is that fair to say?
Yes, I would assume that's where the minutes go. Yep.
By the way, we do the whole minutes equal money, kind of deal, and Ntilikina's minutes, they're created really poorly. 0.53 fantasy points per minute on DK. 0.5. Now, I know the situation's a little bit different, and it might be like 0.7. We can't really run a quarter IQ because there's no sample, right? That's going to pop up, I imagine, kicking everybody off the court. You mentioned Hardy. I pulled up his G League stats, and they're, of course, totally translatable, convertible. But this year for a Texas team, I don't know what the Texas team is called. I'm curious what their nickname is. But he's averaging 28.2 points in the bucket in 33.3 minutes, over 4 made threes per game as well. So
he is a chucker for sure.
Yeah. His per 36, 31.2 points, 4.6 made threes. If he gets some run, he's certainly interesting. So far in the NBA, what are we getting out of 0.85 DK points per minute? But the usage, 26%. Wood, the biggest usage guy at 26%, THJ at 21%. But I can confidently say that THJ's usage will go up, with Luka being out, with Dinwiddie being out. Yeah, so the Dallas pieces are interesting. And again, it's a late game. We don't know when we're going to get Ntilikina news. And are you going to completely work your lineups around Ntilikina being in your lineup? You know what I mean? How much does it bear of is he in? Is he out? He's still 3K.
I'm just going to build with a ton of Dallas regardless. And any Ntilikina that I have, if he gets rolled out, I'm fine swapping that to McKinley Wright or to Jaden Hardy. I just want to be overexposed on those two guards for sure. Obviously, there's a $500 price difference, so I need to have 2 players available. But we have 2 games after this one. We might get the news by the 8 o'clock window. I think there are going to be plenty of here. And Bradley Beal did get rolled out as well.
Saw that. How much? Yeah, I'm curious. We're projecting Morris, Kispert, Avdia, Porzingis, and Gafford as a starting lineup for Washington. How is Cleveland only a 1-point favorite here? What am I missing? I guess they played yesterday, I think, right? But still, how are they only 1-point favorite versus Washington team? Not professional gambling advice, but that seems wrong.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I would definitely be hitting the Cleveland side of that.
You are in a state where you can use that information and do something with that if you feel the
need. I'm assuming the line just got pulled down right now that Beal just got ruled out. But
does he still maybe a point? Maybe a point.
I think it goes to 2.5 now. But that's still too short in my opinion. Cleveland should roll.
Washington stinks.
Yeah,
Cleveland's pretty good. And that's my analysis.
We're on the same page there.
Okay. Utah. The Mavericks are playing against another team. They're playing against the Jazz. The Mavericks are the worst rebounding team in basketball. They don't give up the most rebounds because they play pretty slow. But I think it's an interesting spot if you want to take a shot on Kessler. We saw Olynyk come back and play 29 minutes last game. That was interesting. Van's questionable and on the trade block. Maybe he doesn't play. Possibly doesn't play. We'll see. Yeah, the Jazz. Anybody do anything for you as far as the Utah side?
Not really, but I want to play so much Dallas that they're going to be in the pool.
Yeah.
Markkanen is my favorite, but that price tag, like, it is tough to get to Markkanen today for me, especially because I want to play so much Sabonis, and we're going to talk about Giannis here in a little bit. Tatum's in a great spot. There are plenty of guys to spend on. Markkanen is not really a priority for me, so I'm going to be targeting guys like Mike Conley, Kelly Olynyk, even Jordan Clarkson and Walker Kessler. Like, I would say Conley is probably my favorite there, and it's not because I'm expecting some super great game out of Conley. He's just kind of priced appropriately. He gives me some more exposure to the other side of this game. If Dallas can keep it close, I think that this game gets really interesting. Olynyk at 4,100, like, who knows how many minutes he's going to play. Ever since Walker Kessler has taken steps forward, I'll say this: if Jared gets ruled out, I feel much better about Kelly Olynyk.
Yeah.
Because he could see like 28, 30 minutes in that scenario. With Vanderbilt out, I'm still concerned about Olynyk, but I'll have a little bit just because he's 4,100.
I think one of Kessler or Olynyk has a big game, like it's a really usable game. I can't tell you which one it is. I'll keep that to myself. One of those two.
Fair enough.
I mean, yeah, like he played 30 minutes last game, Kelly Olynyk. He could score 17 points and grab 12 boards, and he can put up a 35 points and with 4K. I don't think his price is where it should be. But okay, we shall move on. There's still 2 games left for us to discuss. That will be the OKC Thunder versus the Golden State Warriors. 234 is the total. Warriors are 4-point favorites here, despite the fact there is no Steph. Steph will be out for a while. Iguodala's out too. That's not a big deal as far as OKC. Nothing really new. Lou Dort's been out for a while. All the guys that have been out are still out. I was talking about reboundings before as far as the Dallas-Utah game. OKC and Golden State are 2 of the 3 fastest teams in basketball. Awesome pace here. And OKC, for that reason, they play at a fast pace. They don't grab rebounds. They give up the most opponent rebounds per game. Yeah, we're not getting a ton of ownership on the OKC side. You can always play SGA, obviously. Jordan Poole, especially on DK, is really popping. 42%. Is that the ownership? I got to refresh here. But, yeah, talk about the Warriors. Talk about Jordan Poole. How much are you willing to take on of that 42%? You willing to go over the ownership projection of Jordan Poole on DK?
Yeah, I mean, 6,200 is just far too cheap. He's going to have the highest usage rate more than likely. Going to play upper 30s minutes here unless the game gets away from them. But like, Golden State's favored here, and like, OKC has been better than people realize this season, I think. They play pretty decent defense, but Jordan Poole is just too cheap. So I'm going to try to get over 42%, hopefully end up in that 55 to 60% range. I think he's a fantastic play. I like this game environment. Clay is priced appropriately, should have plenty of shots available for him with no Curry. Even Draymond's been playing really well. He's 6,400. Like, all of these Warriors are just underpriced when you remove Steph Curry from the equation. The matchup against OKC inside is the reason I'm targeting Draymond. I think that he's in a great spot. Looney hasn't been playing the minutes, so I just prefer Draymond of the. I also wouldn't kick Andrew Wiggins out of a lineup. 5,800, perfectly fair price for him. So yeah. I'm very interested in the Warriors side here.
Poole 16% on FanDuel. Should note distinctly more expensive over there. You still like him on FanDuel at he's 6.2 on DK. FanDuel he's 7.4. Is that still in your pool theoretically?
Yeah, definitely still in the pool. No pun intended, but like, he could absolutely destroy. I know we've seen him struggle. Like, he puts extra pressure on himself or something in this spot, and he has failed in this spot without Curry multiple times. But the usage is going to be there. So hopefully his shot's falling. He could put up a ton of points as long as he's shooting the ball okay.
They're asking about Dante DiVincenzo. Any Dante for you?
I'm checking his minutes here recently. It's just not exciting. I think I would prefer Wiggins. I'd even spend a little bit more for Clay before I went to DiVincenzo.
I apologize. I was looking at the chat. Did you give your take as far as OKC? There's not a lot to say, basically, right?
Correct. OKC is pretty simple. It's SGA or Giddey. I think running Golden State exposure back with one of SGA or Giddey is a good strategy today. I do like doing that. The ownership on those guys is very attractive, under 5% on both. They're both priced where they should be. SGA is another one of those spend ups. I'm perfectly fine getting 2-3 lineups with SGA or Giddey. Really both, because Pool's going to be in so many. Like I'm fine just small stack, like doing a Pool Giddey type of thing, or I'm fine doing like 3 Golden State players and running it back with one of SGA or Giddey as well.
You want to put the ownership. Currently, we have SGA at 3%. Point guard Dame Lillard, $100 cheaper at 21%. That's really interesting. I like Lillard too, but I don't think it should be that different. If you want to do the old 7 times, Lillard's not going to outscore SGA 7-1, right? If you want to play the ownership game,
correct.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting pivot. And Lillard, if you have $100 more. Also, hey, here's an idea. Look at your lineups. How are you doing at this point in time? Because it's 10 o'clock at night. You probably had several players either done or close to being done. If you are smashing and you have SGA, or if you have Lillard left, okay, keep Lillard. If you're on the cusp and you feel like, oh man, I can catch up then maybe do a little pivot to SGA if you have yourself $100 here.
I feel like that's talked about in football so much, but nobody talks about doing that for basketball. And I that's a fantastic strategy. There could not be a better example than what you just described right there. If you have Lillard and you're behind, you have it just makes so much sense to switch to SGA. And if SGA beats Lillard, you pass 20% of the field that you were just behind. That's a fantastic way to try to save your night, essentially.
Yeah, and if you want, you can put SGA in there. And if your team is just crushing, and you want to quote unquote play it safe, and not that SGA is not safe, you can move down to Lillard if you want to do that. And okay, now just come catch me. You'll have Lillard, so you can't catch me. So if you want to play it that way too, right? I suppose. Okay. Just we don't have time a lot of time to dig into strategies, stuff that we definitely should focus on when we can. I just thought it was worth pointing out there. Last game, Crunch Time Crew coming on in a few minutes. Milwaukee, Portland. The aforementioned Dame Lillard. He's going to be, if this game is close, it's almost definitely because it's Lillard time. They are 5-point dogs. 242 is a total, monster total. Of course, you have Giannis Antetokounmpo on the other side there for Milwaukee. Who's in and who's out as far as this game? Peyton expected to go. Eubanks expected to be available. Nurkic, of course, out until the All-Star break. And Milwaukee fully healthy with the absence of Bobby Portis. I will just yield. What do you got as far as this game?
Giannis is the best player on the slate. I mean, things that this dude has been doing recently are out of control. He's got a 50-point game in one of his last 2. He's getting 15-plus rebounds a night. Just an awesome spend up here in this matchup against Portland, who is without Nurkic on the other side. There is nobody on that interior that is going to be able to slow down Giannis tonight. Absolutely love him. If the 30% ownership holds, I'm perfectly comfortable getting well over the field on that. I think Giannis is a fantastic play today. Drew Holiday is too cheap, 7,600 on DraftKings. Middleton is still not playing a ton of minutes. Bobby Portis has been out. It's too good of a spot for Holiday. He should be more than the 7,500 and 7,600 he is respectively. That's where I'm getting my Milwaukee exposure. And Holiday's not even showing that much ownership either, which is a little bit surprising. I think he's probably 500 to 1,000 too cheap. Not a tough matchup against Portland. Portland plays a little bit slower, but they don't play any defense. And with Nurkic out, I think that this is an even better spot. So I'll have plenty of Giannis and Drew. On the other side, Lillard, like you mentioned, he's been playing awesome as well, putting a ton of points in the bucket. I like him as a spend up. I will probably end up just even with the field because we talked about going overweight on SGA. We talked about going overweight on Sabonis. I absolutely love the ownership I'm seeing on both of those guys. So I'll just end up at the field roughly with Lillard. But I think he's a great play. He obviously could smash here despite the tough matchup with Milwaukee. Inside, I think you have to keep going back to Drew Eubanks. It sucks. He's been awful the last 2 games, but if he's in that starting lineup, there's potential for him to play 30 minutes at 3,800. It's not an ideal matchup, but now the ownership is coming down. It's under 15%, 3,800. Like if he stays out of foul trouble, he could play 30 minutes. I think Drew Eubanks is a guy I would try to be overweight on. I also don't hate including Trendon Watford in the pool just in case Eubanks does see that foul trouble again. Watford's still 3,700. Like
Max
that's
one?
a perfect situation. Yes, absolutely. You max one, the minutes on Watford a little bit and just hope like you get the right one that sees the run. But yeah, absolutely love doing stuff like that. Like either one of Eubanks or Watford more than likely plays roughly 28 minutes. You just hope that you get the right one. Like ownership on both of them looks outstanding. I'll be over the field on both. Simons is another guy we should mention.
Can I play Holiday and Giannis in the same lineup? And if I do I have to run it back with somebody in Portland?
Because of Holiday's price, I certainly think that you can do that. I would run it back. I don't think you have to, but I probably would. The Giannis Drew Dame stack is very expensive, so I think you certainly look to somebody cheaper like Anthony Simons was just going to mention. I think his price is perfectly fine, or include one of those centers as well would be able to do that.
You can do that though. There's plenty of like 3 and 4K guys if that's what you really want. You want to marry
That's a
yourself
good
to those
point.
3 players.
Yep, that is a fair point.
All right.
Yep.
Crunch
I would say that this is not my favorite.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. Your mic cut out for a second.
Oh.
Finish your thought.
Yeah, I would just say not my favorite game stack. Like I prefer Houston if I'm stacking a game, maybe even San Antonio, Chicago. But that's certainly in play. Just a little bit more expensive than I would want it to be.
Before the Crunch Time crew comes on, we need some likes. Hit that like button. Subscribe. You don't have to subscribe. You don't even have to hit the like button. Just asking kindly. Hit that like button if you don't mind.
Please hit the like button. If TJ was here, TJ would be
he likes to beg and grovel. I'm not at that point. I don't need more porridge necessarily, but it's we appreciate it.
We know you're not a soup guy, so
yeah. Is porridge a soup?
Oh boy!
All right, so
I don't know what porridge is. I just know it's like that movie clip.
We're gonna bring the Crunch Time crew in.
Gruel, right?
As we do, I have one more. Would you rather question?
Go for it.
Which would you rather introduce to your parents as your new fiance? An eel wearing a wig, or a shoebox full of snails? And while you guys think about that question, I'm going to bring in Kevin, Tim, and Andy Doomsday Means as well.
I mean, a shoebox full of snails is rough. And why is he Doomsday Means?
Wow. We know who doesn't watch the show.
So here you go. We talked about Doomsday Preppers later in the show. We talked a lot of basketball, but Doomsday Preppers came up. And I asked the field, I said, who in the RG community, and you guys feel free to answer this question, is most likely to be a Doomsday Prepper? And one of us 3 said Andy Means. And I said,
I don't even know what does that mean? I prepare for the world to end?
You have 17 cans of soup, like a bunch of flour and baking soda.
No, Means he's way too normal.
No.
Means he's important. Like Grant Neefer is the answer. Grant.
Because he has a beard. There's a correlation with beard and Doomsday Preppers.
Yes. Yeah.
But if you have do you have an answer? Anybody else feel free to throw it out there. Tim or Andy, who you think is the most clear and obvious Doomsday Prepper?
Oh, this is on the show or all of RG?
Anybody, in an RG community. Stevie?
No.
I'm
gonna go TJ.
What?
TJ's a good one.
He's too young. He's not thinking about the end of the world. He's too young.
I can low key like Tim. Are you a Doomsday Prepper?
No.
Okay,
I'm definitely not.
I was picking up some slight vibes. I don't know. All right.
Do you think TJ? You think TJ's giving up valuable Funko Pop real estate for cans of soup?
I'm Funko Pops. The value goes down distinctly in the an apocalyptic world, I imagine. But yeah, they're fun to look at, I'm sure. But
maybe they're the new currency. You don't know, Dean.
Chop is the answer, possibly. Somebody else. We talked about Chop earlier. I think Chop might be the answer. I feel like he's prepared. He's got like at least 30 gallons of water in his house right now. Feel pretty strong about that.
That's a good answer. Yeah.
I feel like it could be Tuttle also.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's
Why
got like
Tuttle?
7 kids. Yeah,
He's got like 7 kids, so I guarantee you he's got canned food in the basement.
But that's gone in like a week.
Oh man.
Yeah, I don't
was-
think that's doomsday prepping. I think that's just having 7 kids.
Yeah.
Yeah. The snail thing, by the way, we're allowed to marry a bunch of snails. It's not just one individual snail.
It's
Is
a
that what you're saying, man?
shoebox. It's a shoebox full of snails, or an eel wearing a wig.
Is
Also,
that legal? What state are we doing that in? Because my understanding is only certain states.
you're from Florida. I mean,
Everything's legal.
it all adds up. Also,
Yeah.
I would say that having 7 kids, you've already reached your doomsday.
Polygamous snails. Yeah, I think we're going with the eel. But the eel is more upkeep, right? The snails you just keep in a box and you can just do your own thing.
Oh, yeah.
You gotta buy brushes and stuff for the eel, for the wig, of course.
Who's got time for that? Got bronchitis.
Nobody.
So, anyways, about this basketball.
Yeah, we got anything else here, Keith? We're going to step aside and let them. Ralph, I guess we'll save the conversation. Or they'll talk about it with you guys. I'm sure you have thoughts as far as your boy Kyrie, as far as your Mavericks. Maybe post lock or something. You guys will talk about it. But Keith, we're stepping aside, right? We're done. Yes.
That's all I got. Yep.
FanDuel sponsored Crunch Time. It starts now. It's Tim. It's Andy. It's Roth. Roth, go for it.
Appreciate it. Dino, as always, welcome to it. It is indeed. It's Crunch Time. It is sponsored by FanDuel. And we are joined by 2 of the sharpest minds in the biz. One, Andy Doomsday Means. Coming in with some cash takes means. I feel like this is a good cash slate. Like, I feel like this is good. There is good plays.
Yep, some cheap stuff that we'll like, and some expensive stuff we'll like. Still a few news bombs that still have to drop. So it's somewhat tricky. It's a little trickier than I thought when I first sat down. I was like, oh, so obvious. Cheap Brooklyn, cheap Dallas.
That's what I thought.
And then, yeah, it's not as straightforward as I thought it would be, but I mean, yeah, there's still a lot to like.
Okay. Also, I did get a question. Means, is it worrisome to roster Wood with him on the trading block? Like the Mavs have said actively they're accepting calls. Is that just thinking too hard and trying to do too much?
Yeah, like the timing of that has to be awful. Like the one thing is that the game's 2 hours after the slate locks. So like theoretically something could happen between now and then, but like we're also at the point now, like people take things so cautiously in the NBA, like not just like injuries and stuff. Like if they even have a whiff of like, oh, he might be getting moved tonight, he ain't playing. And he's coming off a thumb injury. So like they would hold him. I'm saying they would hold him out. Like he wouldn't start. Like it would just be like news like, oh, Wood's not playing. Then you would late swap off him like you would if someone got hurt or like late scratch for an injury. So like, don't worry yourself with that stuff. Like it's the very, very worst case scenario would be completely unavoidable. And that's something like, which is like happened like 6 or 7 years ago and Twitter broke is when like someone got introduced in the starting lineups and then they traded them. Like that is.
But that's like a 1% outcome. It's not something that you.
Less than that. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. That's good to know. By the way, Taylor in chat says Blender is definitely the doomsday prepper. And that's a good answer. Like I could definitely see.
Is anyone else glad Blender is finally off the Jericho cruise?
Hashtag Jericho cruise, man. Just tweeting up a storm about it.
What is that, by the way? I can't figure it out.
I believe it's a cruise ship that had Chris Jericho of the WWE on it, and they like did wrestling on the cruise ship, and it was like a big wrestling event.
That's what I thought, but I couldn't figure it out. I didn't know Blender was a wrestling guy.
As someone that was on the Chris Jericho podcast last week, he has his own cruise every year.
There you go.
Me and Chris Jericho are best friends, by the way.
Oh,
Peyton Pritchard is not starting, by the way.
We were projecting that his projection's going to come down.
Yeah.
Also, before we get to Tim, Dean says, "Prep whatever you want." That's good. That's good, dude. All right, Tim, we got Tim on the show as well, coming in with some GPP takes. How you liking this slate?
This is a really good slate for GPP. I'm pretty excited to break it down. I'm pretty excited to hear what Andy has to say. There's a lot of really interesting plays on both FanDuels and DK. So this is a really good slate.
Okay. Well, we do have to get to it here. We've been bullshitting for like 7 minutes, but before we dive into it, worth noting, make sure you sign up for the FanDuel Sportsbook if you're in a legal sports betting state. Take advantage of their legitimately great bonus offer. Get a no-sweat first bet up to $3K. I am so strongly tempted to just drive to Louisiana and get my $3K. Like, that's a lot of money. That's worth a drive. I need to find time to make that. Just tell my wife, sorry, I'm leaving you with the kids for a day. Anyways, FanDuel Single Entry Series also ongoing, sponsored by RotoGrinders. It's back. Reserve your spot in the Monday NBA Assist Contest. $5 to enter for your chance at $2K. Make sure you are filling that out. With that said, means let's talk about this slate in general, or just dive into FanDuel Cash.
Let's just go right into it. I'll talk
Okay.
about stuff if it pops up.
like
and they're starting Hauser in for the Celtics instead of Pritchard. I'm curious to see where his projection comes in. I'm guessing it's not going to be anywhere close to what we had for Pritchard. So not too worried about talking about Sam Hauser right now, even though, I mean, maybe kind of a borderline idol of mine, just the way he plays the game and is in the league. Like,
Ooh.
maybe if I tried a little harder, maybe I could be in the league.
Could be
Like,
you,
come on.
means.
Yeah, jeez. All right, guard. I'll go through. I always like going through point guard and shooting guard at the same time on FanDuel. Hardaway is my favorite cheap play on the slate. He's 5'2", no Luka, no Dinwiddie, et cetera, et cetera. Let's see here. Drew is my next favorite, 7'5". He has point guard, shooting guard. Sumner, I like as well as a cheapie. Still like THJ better, but Sumner, no Kyrie, no KD. Simmons just got rolled out. Seth Curry's out. Him and Cam Thomas blew up on Saturday with the same situation. So prices are a little higher, but great plays in my opinion. I prefer Sumner for the minutes and starting. DeRozan at 8'4", like him a lot. I mean, the matchup speaks for itself, but he averages like 41.5 FanDuel points per game this year. Expect more out of that because he's playing the Spurs. So, yeah, that would be another option up top. And we'll see. I mean, I guess now's a good time to kind of talk about Mavs. Luke is out. Dinwiddie got traded. DFS got traded. Frankie Smokes got downgraded to questionable today. We're projecting him to start. If he doesn't start, we'll have to see if they go with Hardy or McKinley Wright. I really want it to be Hardy because he's a kind of a bucket getter. I don't know if they'll trust him with point guard. You like Hardy, Roth?
I do. Yeah, I really do.
Yeah. So he's 3,800. He's already projecting decently. So I kind of like him in general. Now he's only shooting guard eligible. Yeah, I think that's a decent amount. I'll talk about Poole more on DK where he's excessively cheaper. All right, small forward. I already talked about Hardaway. I already talked about DeRozan. Giannis, I really like. It's just as the days gone on, it's just been much easier to get him. I know Ice was talking about him on the show before. I mean, he took like a 5-game break. What was that, 2-3 weeks ago? And it took him like 1 or 2 to get ramped back up. But he has been awesome since. I think that's maybe like the last 4 games or so. Coming off 2 really strong ones. Good matchup, in my opinion. They have like 123-point team total. He's doing so much. I really like spinning up for him.
Hey, I'm sorry. I blew that. I was reading chat and missed who you were talking about. Was it Giannis?
Giannis, yeah.
Thank you. Okay.
Yep. Always a good guess if it's me rambling about somebody. So like him, I like Tatum a lot too with no Jaylen Brown. Smart's still out. I do prefer getting up to Giannis because it's 1,400 more, but it's not that much more on a slate like this with so much cheap value. So I would prefer him. And then one other cheap guy I'll mention is Josh Richardson. Didn't mention him at shooting guard because I like other stuff better, but I think he is viable at the small forward position. Power forward and center. I'll talk about power forward first, but there's a very condensed pool of guys I like here. Another guy it's a little difficult to figure out on the minutes. I thought that's what you were actually going to ask me, Roth, earlier was Christian Wood. So I think he's missed the last, I think it's 8 or 10 games. He was dealing with a thumb. We talk about this a lot. Like, it's easier to keep your wind when you're dealing with something like that, you can get cardio in. But it's also one of those things where playing an NBA game is different than anything else he will do to keep in shape. So like what I'm trying to say is, will they just plop him in there for normal minutes, or are we going to see like 28 to 30, or are we going to see like 34 to 36 because they don't have anybody? So we have him for 34 and projecting as one of the best plays on the slate on FanDuel at 7,900 because obviously all the Mavs are not playing. So I think he's fine for cash just because on FanDuel because of the price tag. I don't think you need him on DK, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But I just wanted to touch on that slightly because we really don't know. I just don't know. So like him, though, at that price tag. Then you have Tatum there. You have Giannis there. And then you have Jeremy Grant at 6'4", only power forward eligible. And then you have Robert Williams at 5'8". I think those guys are like – we don't even need to talk about anybody else because those guys are just like a tier above everybody at that position. And then I think pretty much all those guys have center eligibility. Or I'm sorry, the guys I want to play at center are in that group, Wood and Williams. And then two guys I'll mention, actually probably one guy I'll mention because I think the Şengün thing's kind of lost its luster. He just hasn't been playing well.
Mm-hmm.
And Jalen Green's back, which hurts a little bit. So I think the only guy I'd mention here that has only center eligibility would be Vooch. And I didn't mention Al Horford, power forward center. I think he's fine, but I prefer the other guys better. So that's it.
Very good. All right. Let's kick it over to Tim. And I'm pretty excited for your GPP takes here. I want to know what you're doing with some of these chalky plays and just what your overall thought process is here.
Yeah, the very first thing I'm going to talk about is Dallas because I think they're the most important kind of team on the slate tonight. I don't think Frank Ntilikina is a very good play, especially if he's going to be this high owned. Like if you're playing cash games, that's fine, but you know the midday questionable with an illness has me very, very concerned. So I think that he might not even play today, and if he does, I don't think he's some kind of smash play. So I would take an underweight stance on him. I way prefer Jaden Hardy. I think he is like really, really, really good chalk, and he's a guy that I want to get a lot of today on both FanDuel and DraftKings. Derek White is going to be starting point guard for the Celtics tonight. Peyton Pritchard is not starting. Derek White's projected for 34 minutes in a really, really good game environment. With Jaylen Brown being out, that helps Detroit a little bit, keep this game a little bit closer. And I think Derek White is a really, really great play. Point guard, shooting guard. Same thing with Edmund Sumner. For Brooklyn, we have him projected for 34 minutes. These are the type of guys that I would prefer playing over Frank Ntilikina. It's just I know that they're a little bit more expensive, but I think the minutes are just so much more secure.
And so that guy, Frankie Nicotine, can play and still get you jack shit. Like he is not.
Yeah, he is not very good. Like yeah. I don't like to try to evaluate players because I don't think that's what I'm good at. I like to play DFS, and that doesn't necessarily mean that I can evaluate talent. But I just don't think he has a whole lot of talent in him, and I'm just worried about him, and I'm especially worried about him as chalk. So I'm out on him. I'm all set. Jordan Poole is, it's going to be interesting because he's had some really, really high usage games without Curry, but not with Wiggins on the court. That doesn't necessarily concern me, but it's just going to be different. We haven't seen that yet this season. So he's going to be interesting chalk, but he's not going to be as chalky on FanDuel. But I would still get overweight 13%. Maybe I'd get up to like 20 if I was like 150 maxing. I would get up to like maybe 20%. Drew Holiday is the guy that I'm kind of confused by. Like I love Giannis today, and I want Giannis to completely smash. So I'm worried that they would eat into their, each other's ceiling a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like I would take an underweight stance on Drew Holiday. I would much rather just go down to like Derek White, Sumner, Hardy, something like that. And then I think De'Aaron Fox is a really, really good tournament play today. He's going to be like 2% on both slates going against the Houston Rockets on a relatively, it's like a mid-sized slate, and he definitely has the ceiling to break it wide open. So I think he is like my really, really large field GPP play of the day. Moving over to small forward, power forward real quick. I think there are other concerns too about playing Christian Wood. Like this game could end up being a blowout. Like Dallas isn't even trotting out a real NBA team today. They're 10-point dogs against the Jazz. And I think Wood would end up being like the first guy to sit on the bench.
Yeah.
So I think that's another concern to maybe not play Wood at 35% owned on FanDuel. The shot that I'm having a harder time getting away from is Tim Hardaway. Again, he will also be another guy that gets thrown on the bench real quick if this game gets out of hand, but he's only 5,200, not 7,900.
Yeah.
So he's at least a little bit more affordable, not as taxing on your salary cap. So I am playing Tim Hardaway today in GPP. It's not saying I would completely fade Christian Wood, but I would come under that 35% number. I don't know. Andy, did you talk about Robert Williams at all for cash? Do you think he's a cash play?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's a really, really strong play. Like, I don't know if he has quite the ceiling for a GPP, but I really like his floor today. I think if you're in that price range for power forward on FanDuel, I think that you can play him. I like Josh Richardson quite a bit. And then Chicago. Like, it's hard for me to figure out who I'd rather play, like DeMar or Zach LaVine. But I think you should get exposure to both of those guys. And I think those are two guys that I would rather get overweight on those two guys in the same price range as Christian Wood. I'd go under on Christian Wood. I'd go over on DeMar. I'd go over on Zach LaVine. And then Giannis. I mean, what can you say? He is the best play on the slate by a ton. Best floor ceiling combo. It's going to be hard for. I mean, I generally only play single entries. I have him on both FanDuel and DraftKings. Like, I can't. There's just too much guard value.
Mm-hmm.
So it's too easy to play him. So
Okay.
I can't sit here and say not to play him because I'm 100% playing him. I would get over that number at 22% for sure.
Very good. I did get a question about your thoughts on Zinger, and I had a little interest in Zinger, but the money didn't quite work.
Yeah. It's tough for me. I'm not, man. It's not a really good matchup. It's against Cleveland. They're one of the best defensive teams. They have the size to play with him. Mobley can contain him most likely. I guess it's okay because he's 6% owned, but I wouldn't get too carried away with it. I don't love it. I don't hate it, but I think 6% is fair amount of ownership.
All right, and then last thought would be Sabonis going against Houston. I mean, he's going to demolish them, right?
He should, and I kind of like that play better than Porzingis. I believe he's $100 more. Yeah, so he's 9,500. 11% owns. Yeah, I would come in at the field or maybe a little bit higher. But the thing is, I really like De'Aaron Fox today, and yeah. I don't really want to give a strong recommendation on both of them because I prefer playing De'Aaron Fox.
Okay, very good. Let's talk DK. It means is twitching here to get to DK because we're running a little bit behind. I saw him give a little of that. Means let's talk about our build over here. It's just not quite coming together as well as I thought it would here. So I need some help.
Yeah, all right. I'll try to get you. I definitely think you can start with Poole and Giannis. I think I would put in Sumner at point guard, Poole at shooting guard, and Giannis at forward or center, and we'll get there. So that's a good start. Let's just change this up a little bit. Let's kind of go through the first handful of positions. So that would be what I would do as a start.
Mm-hmm.
At small forward, I would probably put in. Now this is depending on kind of what you're going to do elsewhere. Like if if you're going to be spending somewhere else, I would play Stanley Johnson. If you're going to be saving somewhere else, I would probably go see if you can get Tatum. But if not, I would probably go with. I would probably say DeMar, but I do think the more I look at it, I think this is a safe spot if you can't get Tatum. So either play Stanley or Josh Richardson, which would be my suggestion. Then at power forward, you can put Giannis there or you can put Tatum there. And then if you're looking for something cheap, it would probably be the Spurs guys I just mentioned. That would only be Stanley. And then I like Jeremy Grant as a mid-tier option at 6'6". And I didn't mention Wiggins at small forward. I do like him at power forward. So that, and then center would be probably where you put Giannis, I think, or maybe Time Lord at 5'5". So that's, let me look and make sure I didn't miss anybody here. So yeah, that's generally how I would start it. So let's just go back real quick and I'll go through some guards I didn't mention.
Mm-hmm.
Drew at 7'6". So like Drew, I love him in cash games. I know I don't remember who I think I was Ice. I heard talking about it earlier on the earlier show, but for what he just had 2 rough games, so his price came down a lot. So I would go there. I like another cheap guy is, notwithstanding the Dallas situation. Obviously, I'm going to have a lot of interest in Hardy as is. Like, what I would honestly do is put in Hardy at I mentioned Sumner point guard, Poole shooting guard. Then I would put Hardy in the guard position. Worst case scenario, Frankie Smokes plays, and you're like, all right, well, Hardy still projects fine. He's probably going to play like ultra garbage time. He'll probably be out there. And then best case scenario, Frank's out. His projection goes up. Best case scenario is Frank's out and Hardy starts.
Yeah.
So I would just play him. And then like that makes it easier to get to like Tatum. You could put Drew at util, something like that. So that's kind of how I would.
No mention so far of like THJ or Wood on DK.
They're a little more expensive on DK.
Yeah.
So yeah, the price, like the THJ is like 6'4" on DK and he's 5'2" on FanDuel. Like drastic difference.
Mm-hmm.
Those guys did not make cash game builds for me on DK. I think you go heavy Hardy on DK with how the roster flexibility works out there. Let me look for some other forwards real quick here. It's very high low for me here on forward. I don't think there's anyone I want to talk about. I mean, I kind of gloss over Wood. I could see it, but like I would rather play Drew for cheaper. I would rather play Tatum if you could get there. Like with how expensive Giannis is, I don't know if you can get him. Like I'm fine. Let me say this, Rob. I would much rather play Wood than THJ on DK. I would not be trying to jam him in though. Yeah, I think that's about it then. That's all I have. I don't know. I'll pass it back to you guys. I don't know if you have anything else.
Yeah, I don't. So let's talk to Tim.
Did I
Tim,
help?
what are your thoughts here? That was wonderful.
Do you feel better?
I actually like the pieces worked perfectly after you gave me one little tidbit. So thank you.
Okay, good. Hardy.
I already had that one, but yeah, it worked.
I already had that one.
Tim, what are your thoughts on DK? What's maybe a little different than what you're seeing on FanDuel?
The big difference is Jordan Poole's price is just so much easier and just so much cheaper on DK. Like he is as close to a lot button as you can possibly get. Like if I'm making 150 tonight, I would put him in, I don't know, at least 100. I would maybe even just lock button him. I think that generally everything else is pretty much the same. It's Edmund Sumner for me. It's just one of those things where, he's going to play a ton of minutes. They're really going to have to lean on him. He's our number 1 points per dollar point guard in our projections. So, I mean, I'm really going to trust our projections team on that. I really like Derek White again for tournaments. So I think we can move on to questions if you want, because there isn't any kind of like huge discrepancies other than that. Christian Wood is that same kind of thing. Giannis is that same kind of thing for me. He's an absolute smash play at forward. Klay Thompson is pretty interesting because he gets small forward on DK and he's 7,000. I would probably make a rule to maybe even have definitely min 1 Golden State, but I would possibly even have min 2 because that's going to be a really, really good game environment. And so they're going to smash at these prices. So it could be like Draymond, could be Clay with Poole.
Okay, very good. God, this second lineup of mine has $1,200 left over, and that's not what I'm trying to do. But let's get to some QQs here. We've got 6 minutes or so. So of course I am starting with the Discord as always. That's a spot you should be hanging out. Let's get to it. Go. All right, here we go. Scroll on just a wee bit to Mr. Perfect. Can Giannis be faded here? Here in maybe. I mean, you don't have to have 100%. Yeah, that's right.
Somebody's internet's cutting out. Might be mine.
No, that's
I
Roth.
think it was Roth.
Okay.
I hit a thing. Am I back?
You're
I
good.
hit a thing on my computer and things were loading weird. So
I think
anyways.
I heard can Giannis be faded, and yes, of course, Giannis can be faded. But I think any night, this would be a really, really scary fade. That's just, I mean, of course
Gotcha.
you can always fade anybody.
Okay, very good. FanDuel Cash means 2v2 Tatum Sabonis or Giannis DeRozan. Ooh-wee.
I mean, those are both really freaking good. So take my answer with a grain of salt, but I would do the Giannis one. But those are both really freaking good. And if it comes out that's just hard to if that's a decision, that's a freaking hard decision, man. If everything else is fitting nicely and it comes down to who do I play between those two, that's good luck.
I mean, it's Giannis DeRozan. It's Giannis DeRozan.
That was my answer.
Okay. Arlo says, is Meansy looking at DK? I don't know if he's saying this with sass, but I'm going to add it with sass. Tatum should be 11K, question mark. Is he 11K? I don't understand the question.
Maybe should be. I don't know. Maybe I misspoke. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I missed it.
Yeah,
All right.
I might have misspoke.
We'll move on. DK Cash from Freyas. To fit Giannis and Tatum, can Eubanks be a last piece? That's a good question.
Is that a cash question?
It was, yes.
DK, I assume?
Yep.
I don't know how the positional stuff works out, so I could theoretically give guys I like better, but I don't know if it's I need to put.
I would try to play 4 guards. So if that makes sense, I wouldn't use Eubanks as a last piece. I would try to play Giannis at center and then play 4 guards.
Yeah. Okay.
That's what I think. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, that's where the value is. All right. D-Rock, DK, GPP, Zinger, or Kawhi?
Ooh. I think Kawhi.
Kawhi, I looked at his game log. It's just 50 points, 50 points, 50 points, 50 points. It's it's just what you're getting, and it's not a bad thing. NBA DFS, FanDuel Cash, 2v2 means Drew and Grant or Simons and Allen.
I definitely like the first one better.
Very good. DK GPP, Hauser and Mills or Stanimal and Pritchard.
The first one.
I love this question from Sean, Tim. It is a FanDuel GPP question. The lowest price center with upside.
All right, let me pull it up real quick. I'll get back to that question.
Okay, let me get hit Meansy with some. Quick. Means yep. Arlo says, DK Cash, if I'm playing Giannis and Tatum, do you like Robert Williams or Jay Rich?
Let me look at the timing of that. Yeah, Rob, because you could get a little more upside on Jay Rich if Keldon's out. I think Keldon probably plays. I would go Jay Rich for flexibility. You never know what's going to happen.
All right.
I would say Drew Eubanks or Jalen Duren or Kelly Olynyk would be kind of that range right there. So I think my answer would actually be Kelly Olynyk.
Okay, very good. I got to take this question because it's a question after my own heart. Adam in the YouTube chat says, DK, I've got $3,100 left. Last spot in the util. That's my kind of build. I just land there and I'm like, well, I guess I'm playing someone shitty. So
is Bullock too expensive?
He is actually on DK. He's like 4,300. I'm still playing him, obviously, but but I gotta play him. Tim, do we have anything at 3,100 on DK?
Frankie smokes, man.
Yeah, Frankie, I
He's
guess,
good.
but I
Sam
don't
Hauser?
really Sam Hauser, Frankie.
There's definitely like viable stuff there. Usually there's not. There's definitely viable
Yeah,
stuff
I
there.
mean, there you can do it. I just think playing Frankie into a ton of ownership's a really, really bad idea in GPP.
Yeah, but if it gets you everything you need,
Yeah, I mean that's fine. I'd almost rather go Hauser.
okay. All right, very good. A few more questions here, or less than 2 minutes until lock. Aside, FanDuel cash means 3v3 here. Derek White, Jay Rich, Jeremy Grant, or Sumner, Josh Green, and Christian Wood. Oh,
Christian Wood.
Yeah.
That fit pricing. Who's the spin up in that first one?
White, Jay Rich, and Jeremy Grant. So it's not really.
Yeah, I guess Grant, a little bit, but I would probably do the first one.
I just saw a name that I meant. Yeah, what? Josh Green. Wait, Josh Green, Tim.
Yeah.
Should I be playing Josh Green? I feel like I should be.
Yeah, no, he's good play. Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Which site are you playing on?
I'm on DK.
Yeah, he's good.
Okay, that was hesitant. Raj.
No,
Raj
no,
says,
no, it wasn't hesitant.
Okay, all right. Raj says DK GPP, Stewart or Bay. Is Stewart or Bay starting, and which one of the two do you prefer?
I'd go Stewart.
I just saw my name tag on the YouTube here. I'm not sure if you, Kevin. I wish I was as talented as Rob Roth. That's
Stewart
good
is
stuff.
starting, by the way, for whoever asked.
Okay.
Yeah,
Same
Stewart
person.
starting.
Stewart starting.
Bay is not.
Okay. Clearly, you shouldn't pick a fight with the guys who can control everything on the screen. It's a good note. Hey, we did hit the lock. I want to take a few more questions that are already in here before we bounce. So, DK Cash, DeRozan, Brogdon, or Tatum, Patty Mills?
If Patty's starting, I would do the second one.
Okay. Cardi says FanDuel GPP, not the Cardi not baseball Cardi, a different Cardi, says FanDuel GPP is Hauser viable in a FanDuel GPP?
Yeah.
Very good. Achilles DK Cash means pick two: Stanley the Manly, Hardy, or Kispert.
Definitely the first two.
Steve-O DK GPP, Abdia or Middleton?
What was the first one?
Abdia.
You got it.
Denny.
Yeah,
Abdia.
yeah. I'd go at Denny.
Okay. I didn't know if you were thinking or if you had no idea who I was saying, so I just kept.
No.
Or if he thought it was a me question, yeah.
Yeah. DK GPP. Here's the damn answer. First, I'll read the question, and then I'll tell you the damn answer. SGA, Lillard, or Sabonis? Like, why aren't we just playing Lillard 20% every night? Because
Mills is not starting, by the way. Sorry.
Who is that?
Patty Mills. Someone just asked, and it was a Patty Mills question, and he's not starting. So I just wanted to sneak that in before Roth kept going. Go ahead.
Well, hang on.
Cam
Is that a
Thomas
problem?
is starting though. Cam Thomas is starting. That's really good.
So let's talk about that.
Well, like he's already projecting pretty decently.
Mm-hmm.
And the dude just basically the guy who's going to take all their shots now. So I think he's a really good play now, personally.
I don't even know who Cam Thomas is. I don't know what position.
He had 44 points on Saturday, real points.
Oh,
he's 5K on DraftKings. It's like one of the Nets young guys who's going to basically be new Kyrie apparently.
All right.
So,
what position is he?
I think he's just
shooting guard. Shooting guard on DK. He's shooting guard on FanDuel.
He's point guard, shooting guard on DK, which helps. And he's more expensive on FanDuel.
We have so many point guard, shooting guards on this slate.
Mm-hmm.
It's insane.
What was his character's name? Thomas?
Yeah.
Cameron Thomas.
I have a feeling we have him at 26 minutes now. I mean, he's starting. How many? He played a ton on Saturday. Let me look here. I mean, I gotta imagine we put him up to close to 30. So, yeah, he only gonna play 29 minutes, so maybe not. I guess he had 59 DraftKings points in 29 minutes. I still think I mean, I wouldn't go out. I don't think you need to go out of your way to get him, but I like him and Sumner, man. Like those guys did everything for them on Saturday.
I mean, but there's also Hardy, there's White, there's Poole. There's a lot of guards I want to play, Meansy.
Definitely Poole. Let me look, and then maybe it's a Sumner Cam Thomas decision. I still think Hardy's a good guy to build around because I think there's so many outs to him just having like 28 fantasy points tonight.
Yeah, I think it's Poole, Hardy, Sumner, Giannis for Cat.
Poole, Hardy, Sumner. It's definitely Poole, Giannis for me.
Yeah.
You said Sumner, Hardy. I would say I would do Sumner, Hardy, Cam. I think would be my next ranking of cheap stuff. But then like Stanley matters a lot because like small forward, power forward kind of sucks. Like we're talking about all these guys are guards. So then like maybe Stanley bumps up above one of those guys because he's small forward, power forward. So that matters.
Well, yeah, it was Stanley or Hauser, but Hauser's already locked. So
yeah, I would do Stanley. Yeah, so like, yeah, I think that's about right.
Okay. Also, I'm looking at Josh Green's price and realizing I don't want him on DK.
Yeah, just play Cam Thomas if you can get 300.
I would definitely play Cam Thomas over Green.
Done. Yeah. Okay. Well, the people are telling us, "Hey, great show," and I agree. I will echo that sentiment. And with that, I think we can probably bounce on out of here. So for Tim, for our wonderful, mostly okay production team, always working hard behind the scenes, guys, we appreciate you. We love it. We will catch you tomorrow. You have been crunched. Kevin, something weather, it says. All right,
I had to make it weird for you this time.
Thanks.
I wasn't going to interrupt you. Just made it a little.
I thought Ross was going to speed it up real quick.
Wow.
I should have. That's next time.
You've been crunched. Have a good one, guys.